Hello mate, how's it going? How are you? And welcome on back to Football Therapy with me, your host Jan. As always mate, I do hope that you, my friend, are doing well. I really do hope that. And welcome back to, drumroll please, would you Adam and Eve it? That's right, Chelsea News, which of course is the daily series here on Football Therapy, where I reflect on what's been said about those Chelsea boys, giving you my thoughts on it, as always, but more importantly, asking for yours in today's episode. Yes, more talk on Andre Santos to Manchester United in the wake of a Brazilian star leaving Man United, and Casemiro, they're looking for a replacement or two, apparently, as well as trying to tie down Mainoo, just ate lunch, by the way. Kobbie Mainoo to a long-term deal. The Telegraph has done a piece on Roman Abramovich still holding his money and biting back to Keir Starmer, our fearsome leader here in the United Kingdom, who's obviously called him out about releasing the funds. A little bit more on that. It's the first time that his lawyers, I guess, have spoken out publicly, Roman. Speak about that a little bit as well. And then a little bit more light-hearted at the end, some athletic on the centre circle team talk that seems to be winding everyone up. Could it be hype man Willie Issa that's brought this new thing in? Because it is almost like man-spreading, peacocking, doing a team talk on the centre circle. This is our pitch right in the middle. Like, it's definitely a psychological thing, I think. But first of all, let's get into this. So this is across loads of different news websites. Man United interest in Chelsea star confirmed after talks could force Blues exit on one condition. Right. I am certain Manchester United are interested in Andre Santos. He's a player that cost us very little. I think he cost us like £18 million when we got the pre-agreement when he was a 16-year-old, I think. He then went on to captain Brazil's under-20 to an international tournament win. I think he was top scorer for midfield when he was late teens, 20 years old or whatever. And by then, his value had already, if not doubled, massively increased before even putting a Chelsea shirt on. And then, of course, the Forest loan didn't really work, but the Strasbourg 18-month loan, a season and a half, under Liam Rosenior, worked wonders, scored loads of goals from midfield. He was being recognised in Ligue 1 as one of the best young midfielders. Some would say the best young midfielder in France outside of PSG, which is a huge acclaim because obviously he doesn't have the same quality around him as Paris Saint-Germain does. And yeah, just being recognised as an absolute baller. And of course, he's been called up to Brazil's senior squad as well, Ancelotti. So 3 senior Brazil internationals at Chelsea with, of course, the insanely informed, searing hot João Pedro, the, Superboy, Golden Boy, Galactico, recent winner at the London Football Awards, Stefan Willian. We just sort out the mic a little bit there. And Andre himself, who of course is massively fancied by our current head coach, Liam Rosenior. Baller, and his value right now would be very high, over triple of what we paid for him not so long ago. Now the question is he in the untouchables? Now this is the unpalatable, unsavoury sort of discussion to have here. Chelsea back themselves to bring in good midfielders. I think he's been earmarked as on the cusp of untouchables. Of course, he's very young, but so is Levi Colwill, who of course is returning from a very serious injury soon. I do wonder if Chelsea in the hierarchy put Andre Santos in a similar bracket as Levi Colwill, as in I know Colwill has delivered on a high level for Chelsea the end of last season, the race for top 4, Conference League win, and the Club World Cup win. He was a vital key player. And of course, so far, Andre has really only come into the fold in serious starting role under Liam Rosenior. So he is one of the trio that's massively benefited from Rosenior's appointment, when there would be probably João Pedro, undeniably, Santos, and probably Jarell Hato, just who wasn't at all fancied by Maresca. Like Santos, really. Maresca did play João Pedro, but just didn't get quite of the tune out of him that our current head coach is. Doesn't at all. I mean, they're looking at Elliot Anderson and Carlos Baleba, this article writes here, and indeed Adam Wharton, doesn't surprise me at all that they've put a big circle around Andre Santos going, right, Chelsea have their £100 million men, which they won't sell, you know, in Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez. Of course, there's the Enzo Fernandez to Real Madrid story that won't go, but for the moment, nah, we're good. You know, we're not selling them. Lavia, of course, he costs a lot of money, £57 million, and he's not played for us yet, so we wouldn't sell him because we'd make a loss, and we want him, and apparently we really rate him. Asugo is like this backup to Caicedo. There's like a couple of players in the academy coming through that look really good as well. So they might be thinking, well, they spent 18 million on Andre Santos. What if we waived 60 million pounds? You know, Carlos Baleba is going to cost, even if it's not 100 million now, like 80 plus million. Elliot Anderson will cost the same. Maybe they think, oh, you know, this Santos kid, he's really good. He can play 6, 8, probably a number 10 if you wanted him to. Maybe even like a sweeper in the back three. He's really positionally versatile. He's got a goal in him. He's tenacious. He's got that. He's a Brazilian international with the first team at such a young age. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Trying to, you know, a Brazilian at the end of their career in Casemiro, trying to bring him in. It's just up to Chelsea to not sell him. Where I say my piece: do not sell Andre Santos. Keep your powder dry. Hold firm. Hold the line. Do not sell him. Even if they wait, because even if they bought him for like, let's just pull out a figure, £80 million, $100 million or something, yeah, you'd be like, oh wow, we've more than 5 times our money on this kid here. But if he's just starting in the Man United midfield for the next 10 years, there would be like, oh, we shouldn't have sold him to Man United. If, for example, like, I don't know, Barcelona came in and said, we'll give you 100 million euros for Andre Santos, then I think the resolve would be tested a little bit more, out of sight, out of mind, no direct rival. But, and many of you probably will be commenting right now, Jan, you're overrating Andre. No, of course we'd take that money. I just wouldn't sell him to a rival. I think his ceiling is too high, and I wouldn't do it. And I do believe very much so that Man United, and this is coming from Ben Jacobs as well, who's well informed and doesn't spout nonsense often, you know. So I think, yeah, Man United want Santos, and we should absolutely not let them have him. Right, so here we go. This next one is not, well, it's Chelsea related, but it's Abramovich, as in like it doesn't necessarily affect our team right now. Abramovich lawyers ready to fight Keir Starmer to keep control of the 2.35 billion Chelsea money. Now, there's a lot of dry legal sort of talk in this and recapping about, you know, the sanctions. Basically, the Prime Minister Starmer, who I don't think it's radical for anyone to say, he's a bit of a wet wipe, demanding that he pays up, basically. That money's still in a holding fund, yeah? And that, yeah, he's basically got to pay up. And there's some sort of, like, threat, but, yeah, pay up now. But basically, Roman Abramovich's men have said, his counsellor said they've got no legal basis for such threats. It's important to say here, Roman, when he knew this, I've read the book Sanctioned as well by Nick Puel. I recommend you guys read it. It's a bit of a recap. It does feel, it was very much an Abramovich approved book, just for context, you know, when you check it out and you know what you're reading, if that makes sense. But there was a lot of fruity stuff going on at the time, man. And no matter what, of course, there's the geopolitical ramifications. Chelsea fans, Chelsea as a club, were punished for an illegal invasion, you know, and it was nonsense, basically. Look, Abramovich, I'm sure, is no angel. We all know how he got his money. Let's not put our heads in the sand. Let's be honest and, you know, knowledgeable about the scenario here. But I will die on this hill. Abramovich wasn't an extension of like a Russian soft power play in the United Kingdom. He literally was a guy who had loads of money and loved football and wanted to buy a football club and chose Chelsea. That's it. You can remove all this other stuff from that in isolation. His involvement with Chelsea Football Club was due to a love of football. Anyone will tell you that who's close to the situation, and I know a couple. Geopolitical stuff aside, sanctioned, he's still committed to that money not going in his pocket. This is what the Telegraph has published, and what his council and his representatives and spokespeople have said, that he has that 2.35 billion pounds will go to victims of the war. Of course, at the time, the deal was it would go to, of course, just Ukrainian sides. And that was a bit foggy, and he never sort of nailed his colours to the mast there, that, people are assuming it would go to both sides. And maybe that's why it's been foggy since then. The government are basically just saying that he said, honour the commitment you made and pay up now, and if you don't, we're prepared to go to court so every penny reaches those lives who have been torn apart by the illegal war, etc. And he sort of said, you've got no basis of doing that, and we are committed to putting this money there. It is interesting. I wonder what his intentions are long term. But I think it's very pertinent here that before he was sanctioned, and he knew he was going to be sanctioned. Okay, so he's just got fingers in all kinds of pies. He said he was going to sell Chelsea and give the profits to the victims before he was sanctioned. Before they went, actually, we're just going to take this from you anyway. He knew it was coming. That's why he did that. But do you know what I mean? That he is committed to that. He has loads of money. Do you know what I mean? And I as complicated as it is, I know a lot of Chelsea fans want to make it sound very, very simple, and I understand their inclination to do that. It is complicated for a bunch of reasons, but for all my, what I hope is an educated opinion, I think he's just a guy who loved football, loved Chelsea, and wanted to buy a football club. I also think there's, away from the geopolitics and all that kind of stuff, I do think there's a reality where the model with how he ran Chelsea, and yes, he ran Chelsea in a way where he wasn't looking to make money. I mean, his club gained value inherently, but he was throwing money into Chelsea just to win. But the model of the modern Galactico model that perhaps both Chelsea and, dare I say, Man United have demonstrated in different variations of failure in recent years, in terms of buying, especially us towards the end, your Werners, your Havertzes, your Lukakus, we started just sort of throwing money at these big names without a real sporting plan. I was calling for sporting directors for a long time, not necessarily these ones, maybe like a Luis Campos or something, but a hierarchy. And also, you got to understand, it's not just maybe that how that model doesn't work in modern football in terms of sporting success. You got to also take into account this was Roman Abramovich, although he welcomed in financial fair play because Abu Dhabi bought Man City, which is pretty smart, really. He was like, I'm not the richest kid in the playground anymore. I've already bought loads of players. Yeah, bring the rules in. It's like Blueco voting to close the amortization loophole when they just done it to all those players. Yeah, PSR's different. So PSR obviously came in, and I think Chelsea would have suffered from PSR stuff as well. So the whole game, I know this is pretty dry stuff, gang, but it's a big story. It's a huge story. The money's still being held. Be very interesting to maybe Roman's just thinking, you ain't having my money, and eventually, even if I have to wait 10 years, I'm getting this back or something. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Or maybe he is like, I'm going to give it to the victims, but on my terms. Who's to say? It's not for me to speculate, but we'll see what happens. There's not. I'm not going to get political now. Anyway, let's move on. Let's just say I think Keir Starmer's a little bit of a wet wipe. Right! The circle of doom. Chelsea centre circle ritual that is winding up opposition players, fans, and even pundits. Who gives a ruddy so-and-so about that? Simon Johnson writes the following. Anyone noticed Chelsea are getting booed a bit early than normal recently? Excuse me, I've just eaten so much food, man, and I had a coffee, so I should have done like a 20 minutes meditative before I start talking loads down a microphone. Being targeted by opposition fans is not unusual for the club's players. Chelsea have never been the most universally popular team over the years, as we like it. particularly since they rose to serial winners under former owner Roman Abramovich, the aforementioned. All linked. But it's hard to recall them being on the receiving end of too many jeers before each half had even kicked off. And of course, until now. The past week has seen Chelsea's It's more than the past week. Why are we acting like this has only just happened? They've been doing this for ages. Chelsea's pre-match antics have attracted the ire of Aston Villa and Wrexham fans. Opposition players have looked rather agitated too, Amadou Onana, if you remember. Seeing 11 players doing a huddle on the pitch ahead of the fixture getting underway is not uncommon. Many teams do it, and Chelsea have been one of them. But they have begun doing it with a new twist lately, performing the exercise from the beginning of every 45 minutes, right on the centre circle. You've seen it, they literally go around the centre circle. It is like man spreading on the tube. Do you know what I mean? This seems a deliberate exercise, not only hyping themselves up, yet it is not a fail-safe given how inconsistent they are. Yeah, it's not like some super lucky thing that always works, but also to rattle who they are up against. Who is behind it? Well, head coach Liam Rosenior, who replaced Maresca in January, is not taking any of the credit. He has made it clear that the players came up with it, although former Wigan Rugby League star Willie Issa, remember him? The hacker hype man from the dressing room, who was hired 13 months ago as a player support and development officer, has provided a bit of an assist. A lot of people, we mocked his, some mocked, and to be honest, I wasn't really mocking him. I was like, oh, here we go, here's another one of these mentality guys, because we did this before from rugby. Many of you called me up in the comments, rightly so, saying, no, this guy's a winner, yeah, and just give him a chance. And I was only being playful, but yeah, the team spirit has improved since he was appointed, I must say. What is surprising is just now how it's beginning to wind people up. Even former Liverpool and Real Madrid attacker Steve McManaman lost his cool while commenting on TNT Sports. That if we're winding up Steve McManaman, I say, job done, I endorse it, I'll sign off on it, keep doing it. Just even if you just keep doing it when he's on commentary, find out when he's in commentary and do it for as long as possible. He said the following: I think it's ridiculous I'm not going to do a Scouse accent. I'm tempted to try, but I think it might be problematic. I think it's ridiculous, to be honest. Nowadays, with the psychological gains to be made, everyone's coming up with a new silly idea, and this is one of them. So let's have a look at what's going on. Here's Exhibit A from the 4-1 win at Villa Park, while the Villa fans made their displeasure known about Chelsea's display of unity. Ahead of the game, it was Villa players objecting. Of course, Ollie Watkins, Jared Gillett, Douglas Luiz seemed to see the funny side. Pretty sure Amadou Onana got peed off. Meanwhile, Chelsea captain Reece James appears to be trying to get Wesley Fofana to concentrate on the task at hand and complete the circle. Complete the circle, Wes! Complete the circle! But no one can question Alejandro's Garnacho focus. What are we doing here, Simon Johnson? Wes is looking away. Garnacho's looking down. Great. I mean, I do think this is worthy of talking about because it is interesting, but this kind of analysis is scraping the barrel. Here we go. Here's more of a wind down. There he is. Amadou Onana. He's unhappy. What are they doing, ref? Look at this, ref. It is man spreading on the tube, isn't it? The camera lens switches back to Ollie Watkins. Yep, he's unhappy. And there's our gaffer. Aston Villa are 2-1 down at this point. Also, it's the second half. So you can appreciate their desire to get on with the game, especially with Emery's attempts to galvanise them at half-time. Yeah, I kind of amused Rosenior from the dugout. I quite like it, actually. Especially, so if you've got a narrow lead at half-time, they've probably had a rocket part them new tactics in the dressing room. And then you go out and do that again. It stops them from getting going. And it just gets inside their heads. Look, I think this is one of those things that might help us, may not help us, may help us for a little bit, and then probably we'll have to stop doing it for one reason or another. Either one, because the other team does it to take the mick out of us, or we get told to stop encroaching in the other half as a rule. Because if you're in the centre circle, you're actually half in their half as well. I get it. It's like a sort of flex, basically, isn't it? You're sort of imposing yourself on them. So I reckon we'll do it a bit more, and then someone will be like, stop it, and we'll have to stop doing it. That's my guess anyway. Rosinia made 9 changes, of course, against Wrexham on Saturday. Yeah, poor robbed Wrexham. By the way, the fallout on that game has been absolutely ridiculous. Parkinson, talking about the card shouldn't have been red. No, red card, you silly sausage. And the offside, clearly offside. You want to come into the Prem, mate. You have designs to come in the Prem. Play by the Prem rules. You numpty. Yes, there's admirable binding here. Admirable binding. Look at the meticulous analysis. There's no Wesley Fofana break. There's admirable binding. Look at this binding. Fabulous binding. There's no chance of a Wrexham player can break this up. Look, Wrexham players, try and break up this binding. This binding is so admirable, it's impenetrable. Look, by the way, Simon Johnson's a really good journalist. I'm only having a bit of fun. And boy, am I having fun. Apparently we started this back in January the 28th in the Diego Maradona. Yeah, there you go. What a night that was. Joao Pedro. And that was their first loss in 1,000 years at home, I believe the stat was. And that was genuinely very good. Yeah, so what happened at West Ham as well? What is this? What is this article? Now, guys, let's talk about this binding. Nuno Espirito Santo can only sit back and look at this binding. I'd argue this binding... actually, this is quite good binding. But I'd argue this binding here is more admirable. That is an admirable binding. Right, is there any more substance to this effing article? Because we're literally... There's just loads. Okay, let's land this friggin' plane. Chelsea's record since the huddle was introduced. Okay, this is quite interesting. Played 10, won 6, drawn 2, lost 2. Wet. To be honest, the drawn 2 shouldn't have happened. Let's completely be honest about that. So it should be 1-8, lost 2, and those 2 were Arsenal, which sucks, but here we are. Rosinia sees only positives in it, though, as he said during his post-match interview of the Villa. I really like it because it's showing unity and togetherness and spirit, and I think you need that. Yeah, he's going to be asked about it more, I tell you. Before anything, you start talking about tactics or system. Yeah, I kind of like Rosinia for this, because he's obviously thinking they're going to love having a bite at this. He basically takes it away and is like, yeah, you need it, tactical spirits, and then he talks about running, pressures, togetherness, and all this kind of stuff. So he literally says, yeah, all right, let's move that over here. After a while, he will get journalists going, yes, but the circle, the admirable binding has to stop. He talks about them being a good group. I was hoping this would go into more detail about the involvement of Willie Issa, because, his assist in doing this. I would not be surprised at all if he's bringing it in, because this is the kind of, extra sprinkle of edge that you kind of get this guy in for. They love him, by the way. We all, had a bit of fun when he was doing the hacker in the dressing room, as you'd kind of want from a friggin' Kiwi rugby player that you get in. That's the least you expect. Do the hacker, But apparently he's been sick, man. So I am, I'm all for it. Marginal gains, not to go too friggin' Mikel Arteta, LinkedIn, but Rosinia's of that school, of that kin, isn't he? The sort of high performance LinkedIn Liam, as they affectionately call him. But, my position remains the same. I like the manager. I do. I'm backing him. I'm rooting for him. I hope he wins. But if he doesn't, see you later. Bring on the next one. That's ultimately where we are. Alright, gang, let me know your thoughts. Please do leave them in the comments section. Thank you as always for liking the video and subscribing on YouTube. If you want to watch this or listen on podcasts, search Football Therapy Podcast on your podcast apps. And of course, there's the videos on Spotify. Do consider giving me a follow and a 5-star rating. I only have 1 or 2 on Apple Podcasts. Apple Podcasts... Football Therapy Podcast. Let me just see, because on Spotify I've got over 1,100 5-star ratings. Oh, you guys have come through. I had one, and now I've got 33, an average of 4.9. Who's trolling? Go give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, please. Here it is. There we go. There you go. That's pretty good. It's pretty sweet. 33, 4.9. It's not quite over, like nearly 1,200, like it is on Spotify, but still great. Thank you so much for your support. Right, enjoy the football. See you soon. Peace.